Hello, it's Zoe, and welcome back to the Mischief Movement podcast, your weekly inspo for people looking for more hell yeah in their life. Consider this your one-way ticket out of midlife mediocrity towards fun and positive impact via playful disruption. Wouldn't you love to wake up and feel like a total badass? How about breaking some rules, throwing two fingers up to society and doing more of the things you love? I'm talking full-on freedom, adventure, and those meaningful connections I know you've been craving. Stop waiting for your amazing life to happen and go get it. I'll be picking the brains of some true game changers and mischief makers so I can share what I find and hopefully inspire you to shake things up, do more of what makes you feel alive, and boldly rebel against the ordinary. I've no idea what I'm doing, to be honest, but I've got a mission and I'm here to start a movement. It's going to be quite the adventure. Care to join me? Okay, here goes.
Can I be honest with you? When Solademi, founder of the award-winning digital marketing and web design agency SOS Creativity, reached out to me about collaborating, I was a little bit skeptical. What does a successful entrepreneur working in a corporate world I know nothing about have to do with my message of mischief, free spirit, and waking yourself up to have wild adventures? But as so often happens, I followed my curiosity and we set up a call. I should have known that this wasn't going to be a typical business conversation because with a name like the Mischief Movement, my guests are always looking to go beyond society's idea of normal and are actively looking for ways to create positive disruption, whether that's in the brands they create, the ways they manage to give back, or how they build a life on their terms. And so I wasn't disappointed. Stephen is definitely a people's person, and he taught me a lot about making others feel at ease in order to facilitate strong connections. His is a story of believing anything is possible and that starting scrappy is definitely the way to achieve success. As a 14-year-old boy moving from Nigeria to the UK, the odds of success weren't necessarily stacked in his favour, but despite school bullying, being labelled arrogant, experiencing college scholarship heartbreak and having only 100 quid in his pocket to start a business, he still proved all the naysayers totally wrong. Not only has he gone on to build a thriving business, but he's also finding ways to create positive impact, disrupt the stereotypes, and bring as much positivity and knowledge to anyone he meets. It was a joy to have this conversation, and I know you're going to walk away with a new perspective today.
Stephen, I am super thrilled to have a conversation with you today. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what your mischief is?
Well, my name is Stephen Solademi, and because of my middle name, Stephen Oluwapelumi Solademi, most people call me Mr. SOS. And yeah, as you alluded to before, I run a few businesses with the word SOS in it, so it's just easier and everybody knows me as Mr. SOS.
Now I understand, okay.
That's where the Mr. SOS comes from.
Perfect.
Yeah. What is my mischief? My mischief is trying to be the symbol of anything is possible. That's my mischief. Fundamentally, it's a case of anything is possible, even though it doesn't look like it's possible. So I'll give you a bit more context. Business. I'm in business. I started a business with £100. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not the richest man on the planet. However, I've been in business over 6 years, and the statistic shows most business fail even before they get to their 5th birthday. We're on the way to our 7th. I'm doing all right. That's possible. I came from Nigeria, a completely different culture. When I was 14 years old, I knew nothing about the English culture. And here I am. That's possible. I decided I didn't want to go to university like everybody else when I was 19 years old. I just started playing football for the Americans, soccer. I had a scholarship to America. I played at university level, NAIA Division 1 level. That's possible. I got injured. I've had 4 operations. Everybody told me to give up football and stop playing football. I got myself fit. I went on to play semi-professional football. That's possible. So I guess my mischief is to be the symbol of anything is possible.
I love that. That's such a fantastic answer. I was going to ask you if you're a bit of a rebel, because people who come on the podcast usually are, but you've already just said to me that people told you couldn't do something and you didn't listen. So I'm guessing you probably are.
To some degree, you could say that. I mean, rebel can have a positive and negative connotation depending on who you're speaking with.
Yep.
And when I was younger, I used to get called arrogant a lot. And it used to bother me because the people within my inner circle know I am anything but arrogant. I am not arrogant at all. I'm confident, don't get me wrong, but I'm not arrogant. So as I was growing up, every time someone labeled me with that, oh, you're just an arrogant, it really used to upset me right to the core. And then as I grew older and I started doing a lot more self-reflection and a bit more personal development, shall we say, and understanding what exactly is going on. And as I'm figuring myself out, I realized why people call me arrogant. When you're extremely confident doing some of the things that on paper you shouldn't be doing, it can almost rub people the wrong way. And naturally, when people don't have the right phrase or terminology, they label it with a negative connotation. Hence why the phrase being a rebel can have negative connotation. If I asked you, I know you're the interviewer, but what's the difference between someone who's a rebel and someone who's a disruptor? You probably say nothing. But disruptor, oh, I'm a disruptor in the industry, positive light. Oh, he's just a rebel, negative light. But they're doing the exact same thing. So it's when people don't understand things, they can just blanket label it in a negative light. And yeah, that's well, I suppose that's it for me. As I was growing up, I understood that it wasn't such a bad thing. It's just because people didn't understand that you can be confident as well as humble at the same time. So the way you carry yourself, it then comes across as arrogant.
So have you always been quite confident then, or is that something that's happened later in life?
Yes and no. My very early years from being born to, I want to say, about 14 years old, I was confident, super confident. I've seen some baby pictures of me the other day, and there's actually one on my Instagram. If you saw my eyes, like, you would see that baby, you don't want to mess with that baby. But then when I transitioned and I moved to England at the age of 14, I stopped being as confident. I wasn't all of a sudden shy or whatever. Like, I had friends that could make conversation, but it was only with people I was more comfortable with. Like I said, I was understanding the culture. I just came to England at the age of 14. So I'd say from age 14, for the next 14 years, I went as confident as I was 0 to 14. But then I went on this journey, like we discussed previously, of who the hell is Stephen? Who am I and what do I want to be? And all of that kind of conversation, deep conversations with myself through therapy and things of that nature. Then I understood a bit better who I was and what I'm trying to achieve. It was around that kind of 27, 28-year-old mark. And for the last 3 years, you can say, I've been a lot more comfortable in my skin. So the confidence never left me. It kind of went away a little bit within that 14 to 28. And now it's like, I understand why you might think what you think, because I've read up on it, I've done my research, and listen, I get it, and I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but you know what? That's okay, and I'm perfectly fine with it.
Absolutely. So I guess we could talk a little bit about what you're actually doing now. You said that you have got several businesses. What is it exactly that you're doing?
I am the classic workaholic, so I like to do a lot of things. Depending on who you speak to, they will tell you that is not a good thing. And I get it. I understand it, but it works for me to some degree. I've seen the flip side of it where it can get overwhelming and then you kind of drop a few things. But fundamentally, my main day job, if that's a thing, is I run a digital marketing agency called SOS Creativity. We specialize in search engine optimization and website design and website development. I will happily go against most agencies in those two line of work that I'm sure we can almost kick their ass. Even the big boys. I don't mind saying that. That's what I do for the most part. On the side, and I started that in 2017. In 2018, what I realized was I was getting bored after kind of 9 to 5 because the agency, my clients were businesses, and as soon as they're closed, I got nothing else to do. So I was looking for something else to do. I was thinking, should I start a fashion company? But then I was like, everyone's got a fashion company. It's not for me. But yeah, I like to dress nice and okay, but I'm not a fashion guy, let's be real. Then I thought, should I start a watch company? Because it's different. I like my watches, but then it's like, yeah, I can wear a nice watch. I'll have a few watches. Doesn't make me a watch expert to start a company in watches. But then it was at that time, one of my teachers in school reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, come to the school, give a presentation, a talk, because you graduate from here, help motivate the students. You're doing well with your marketing agency. You're doing well with your business. Just come and inspire them. So I said, okay, cool, no problem. When I went on that trip, she reminded me and she said to me, remember when the headphones you used to sell in school? I've only just got rid of the one I bought from you years and years ago. And I was like, whoa. Like, I knew I was crazy enough to sell stuff to students in school because I was that guy, whatever you needed, like I could get my hands on it, headphones, hat, whatever it was. I always knew how to get it type stuff. And I completely forgot I sold stuff to the teachers as well. And then she reminded me. And then I came back, I was like, bing, light bulb moment. I'm going to start my own headphone company. And that's how in 2018, SOS Sound, my second company, was born. So own brand of headphones. We got this earphone actually is an SOS Sound earphone. So these are my brand of earphones I'm wearing. They're just normal earphones. They're cool. So I started an e-commerce company. And then 2020, lockdown kind of started and I started reading about property. So I really took up my reading a lot more. I just want everything, business, personal development, finance, whatever it is, I just sunk myself into it. Then I came across property. So I started my third company in lockdown called SOS Asset. Now you can start to see Mr. SOS and all of that stuff.
Sure.
SOS Assets, I started that company as a property investment company, then started kind of buying properties, renovating them, renting them out, and so on and so forth. So those are the three main things that I've got going on. But in the background, I'm starting a new AI company that's going to be. I'm looking forward to seeing how that does over the next sort of 5 to 10 years. But that's still on the hush hush for now. Once I finish developing,
come on, give us more to go on than that.
Once I finish developing the MVP, then I'm going to be able to launch that. But it's about helping people be smarter with AI. So utilizing the technology to help you be smarter. That's what it's about.
It's good AI, not scary AI.
No, not scary at all. It's utilizing some proprietary prompt engineering to help people actually leverage AI to help them be smarter. And yeah, I'm excited about that project. But those are the 3-4 things that you could say keeps me busy. In addition, I go to the gym. I still try and play football now and again. And yeah, I just like being busy and being active. But like I said before, it can get overwhelming. So also knowing when to dial it down a bit to then focus on the important things. But fundamentally, that's how I operate.
Yeah, I've worked for a couple of bosses in the past who literally could not switch off, and they were constantly on their phone, even on holiday and bank holidays and times when they should have been with their family. And I remember thinking, if this is what it's like to run your own business, I don't want that at all. So how do you manage to, is it a case of setting your own boundaries and saying, no, at this time, I'm not available? Or how do you deal with all of that?
When you're a classic workaholic, which I am, I make no two bones about it. That's how I am. I enjoy it. So it makes it easier. but I also understand there are more important things to life than work. I have 7 key things that I look at that I say this is a complete person. So business / work is one of them. Social life is one of them. Spiritual life is one of them. Personal development is one of them. Your love life, which is where your family comes in, is another. And then your health and your wealth. Those are the 7 key things that I look at. And always, without question, business always takes a big priority because I'm passionate about it. It's what I care about, and so on and so forth. So naturally, because I'm that way, you hear all this conversation about work-life balance, work-life balance. Balance is different for everybody, right? For some people, balance is I must get home at 6 o'clock. I'm watching my favorite Netflix series for the next 2 to 3 hours before I go to bed. For other people, balance is I need to have some sort of event that I'm looking forward to every weekend, for example, or every other weekend. I need to spend time with kids. If you have kids, with doing this, and the other. Everyone's balance is different. And by the way, what most people don't realize is balance change as you grow. When I was younger, my balance was I just wanted to work. My routine, no question, no joke. 8 o'clock, I'm in the office. I was working when I was still an employee. 5 o'clock, I'm out the door. I go straight to the gym. I hit the gym. And after that, I go home, I watch Netflix, I sleep, and I repeat it. I went to the gym 5 times a week. And then I play football on the weekends. Now, my balance is I go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. I work a lot longer because I'm trying to build something. But at the same token, I talked about the 7 key areas. My ultimate goal in life is at any given time, I'm not far off giving myself a score of 8 out of 10. So that means if my business, I'm giving myself a 10 out of 10 in business, but then my social life is a 4 out of 10, I'm failing. I'd rather an 8 out of 10 and an 8 out of 10 to make me right good. So what I do is I try and schedule time. So one weekend, it'll be weekend with friends. I might go to Newcastle to see my best friend or whatever, and so on. At least once a month, date night with the fiance. Some people tell you should do it once a week. Kudos to them. I definitely do once a month, whatever works for you. And on the bank holiday, I hate bank holidays because it throws me off. So depending on the type of bank holiday it is, I'm either going to be working or I then turn it into a longer trip where I'll finish earlier on Friday afternoon. And then I know I'm not back until Tuesday, try and make a weekend of it, whether that's family, whether that's love life, whether that's whatever it is. So it's always, I'm looking at those gauges and I'm like, right, where am I doing too much in one? And I need to offset that. That's the way I find my balance. So last bank holiday, I was with literally just gone a couple of days. Like what's today? Wednesday?
Yeah.
That's why I hate bank holiday. I don't know what bloody day it is when it's a bank holiday. I spent time with the missus. We had a long weekend. It was amazing. Next bank holiday, I'm working because there's so many bank holidays in May. It's like I'm losing out on days, and I've got some important projects that I'm working on. So it's find your balance, make you work for you, and try not to let other people's balance make you feel guilty. That's ultimately it.
That's such a good point, because I think we all do, don't we? We're so susceptible to feeling like it's a one size fits all, and if some marketing guru says this is how you should do things, or some personal development person says this is how you should do things, you kind of then feel like if you're not hitting those things and you're not doing them the way it says, you in some way you're kind of failing. But I mean, the reality is we're not all the same, and it's not one system for everybody.
That's right, yeah.
I'm interested to go back a little bit there, because you talked about how you used to sell things at school. And I know that so many people who then go on to become entrepreneurs start in this way. You know, they're really young, they're already wheeling and dealing when they're not 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever. Did you always have like aspirations to run your own business, or was that something that kind of took you by surprise?
No, I did not, is the short answer. Like I said, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know what I was doing was entrepreneurship. I was just doing it. So I started from selling my own stuff in school. It was as basic as I'd go to a wholesaler, buy like 10 cans or 12 cans of pop, fizzy drinks and whatever it is. And I'll take it to school and I'll just sell them individually. And then I'll have some profit at the back of it. And then every day I'd do the same thing. So on my way home, I'd restock. On my way to school, and when I'm in school the following day, I'd sell, I'd restock, I'd sell. Then it graduated from that into headphones. So I was doing like skull candy headphones and so on and so forth. Then it graduated into hats. I was selling hats. And it then graduated into when I fell in love with computing. I taught myself how to code when I was, I think, around 16 or so. I built my very first website for streaming. So people used to come on my website for things like Champions League final, FA Cup final, the big events and wrestling, WrestleMania and things of that nature. And then it dawned on me, there was one day I had 1,000 people on my website. So I was like, what do you do? I mean, this is 2008, 2007, 2008. I was 16 at the time. And what I did was I went on Sports Direct, which is just a general kind of sporting kind of website, because my streaming website was sports related. It made sense to me at 16, 17 years old that that's what I should do. I went on Sports Direct website. I go to the sales section of their website and I saw all the stuff that was discounted. I'd take all of that, turn my website into an e-commerce store and list all of that on my website, right? This is now what we call drop shipping. So I was doing this before it became a mainstream thing, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't know that was business. I didn't know that was entrepreneurship. I just knew I like this stuff. I'm okay at it, and I can make some money from it. So when people would buy from that website, I would then go to Sports Direct, buy the same thing online, but I was listing at full price. I'd buy it for the sale price from Sports Direct, and then I would ship it to them directly. So rather than it coming to me, I ship it to them. That's modern day drop shipping. But like I said, I didn't know what it was. I was a young, naive kid, and I just knew I like this stuff. It's pretty cool, and I was doing it. Then my mom was adamant. She was like, I don't care what you do, but you got to get your degree. Once you get your degree, you can do whatever you want. I'm happy with that. And honestly, to some degree, I look at it and I go, could I have been further advanced if I'd carried on? Maybe. Or could I have gone a different path and a negative path? Potentially. Because I was spending a hell of a lot of time online, and we know what online is these days. So I'm very grateful that she instilled that, okay, I need to get my degree in me, because some of the projects I've won from the marketing agency, even though the work I do doesn't technically require the degree, because I have it, it's meant I'm seen in a different light when I'm working into some of those bigger projects. So it's phenomenal. So I went and did all of that. I graduated with a first degree in computing and web development. I was working in the industry, but from the first day of me learning to the last day that I was an employee, I was freelancing, evening, weekends, whatever it is. If you're a friend and you needed it, I'd do it for you. Family, small businesses. I remember I was doing websites for £30 and I was thrilled. Like I was buzzing because it was just such a passion. And then I started understanding, oh, you can actually run a business, you can start a business and blah, 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 blah. 2017, I set up as a registered company, a limited company, set the business up, and then off I went. Then I started networking and so on and so on and so on. Then I realized, oh, this is entrepreneurship, and there are strategies. There are things you need to look out for. There's HR, there's legal, there's accounting, there's tax, there's raising capital. Then I started expanding and becoming a better business on the board. No, I didn't know what I was doing from a very young age, but it was something I was passionate about, and I just stuck with it.
It's series 2, and I'm excited to be back partnering with Polite Club again, a brand whose mission is to change the attitude towards vulnerability and to encourage more conversation around it in order to increase real human connection. The vehicle for these conversations is clothing, or connection clothing as it's become known. And connection is one of our core values. So to bring more people together and help you rebel against staying the same, Polite Club are offering a cheeky 10% discount when you use the code Mischief at the checkout. Sustainable, organic, and rebellious, of course, Polite Club also uses 50% of their profits to fund proactive suicide prevention in the form of coaching, support, and awareness raising, which enables people to understand their emotions and express how they feel constructively. Become a vulnerable with us. For more info on the brand or to buy online, go to politeclub.co.uk or follow on Instagram at politeclubhq. Now, on with the show. So, what would you like people to know about your story and sort of what you've gone through to get to where you are now? You know, it's really lovely to hear that you started quite young and it all developed from your passion for computers. But, you know, who is Stephen?
Who is Stephen? One of the questions I've asked myself very, very, very frequently. And fundamentally, I want to be the person that, whether you interact with me for 1 minute, whether you interact with me for 1 year, whether you interact with me for a decade, however long or however short you interact with me, whether it's in person, physical, whether it's just from listening to this podcast or from watching or any of my videos or whatever it is, I want to be the person that where you were before coming in contact with me versus where you are after coming in contact with me, there's a difference in a positive sense. That's fundamentally who I want to be. And to me, that's being a business owner who whoever wants to be in business can potentially look up to if they remotely look like me, come from where I come from and go, anything is possible. I'm going to go ahead and do it. Whether it's being a good brother that my brother or my sister needs some sort of advice about something and I can say, well, this is what I've seen that works and they can take that and go implement it. Whether it's when I eventually become a dad, being a great dad to my kids and they're able to make a good life of themselves, or whether it's just being a good friend or a connector, somebody is trying to connect with that person and I happen to have a good relationship, whatever it is, fundamentally, like I said, I want to be the symbol of anything is possible. And I want to make sure that whoever comes in contact with me in whatever fashion, they're in a much better place when they left me to before they met me. And now, that doesn't mean because I've done anything magical, because at the end of the day, they still got to do stuff for themselves. But that impact of whether it's they heard something, whether it's I was able to connect them to somebody, whether it's because they saw something, or whether it's just from a representation standpoint, that's who Stephen is. And that's a good question I've been asking myself for a long time. And yeah, that just giving back and just being able to support in whatever shape or form to take people to their next level. That's who I think I am.
That's such a great answer as well. I know that when we talked before, we discussed how difficult it can be when you move countries and you have to start from scratch. Now, I did it as an adult, so I can only imagine what that was like for you. But I mean, can you describe a little bit about how that feels going from somewhere in Nigeria and then rocking up in the UK at 14 years old? How did that come about and how was the experience? Because they're very formative years as well.
Yeah, they certainly are. And I guess it goes back to your upbringing. So I'm very fortunate that my mom, my parents, they instilled the right values and principles in me, which till I was 14 years old before making that move was strong enough. And even from age of 9 to 14, so I wasn't actually with my parents when I was 9 years old to 14 years old, because before I moved to the UK, my mom and the family, they moved to Jamaica working. My mom was working over there as a registered nurse. So I actually grew up with my auntie, her older sister from 9 to 14, but very, very similar. Because of the upbringing they had, my auntie instilled the same kind of beliefs in me. So I had a good grounding in terms of being a good person, doing the right things, whatever the consequences, just making sure you treat people right and all of that stuff. I had a good fundamental upbringing, which I'm very thankful for. But when I moved to England at 14, it was a huge culture shock. The way I was speaking, I had a very broad African accent. and my mannerisms, some of the things that I like slangs were completely different. So one thing that means something else complete in a different context. I had that kind of challenge where I was trying to figure out. I was academically sound in the sense of I was always the first, second, or third in class growing up in Nigeria. I had a big dip during that period because I joined school at year 10. So literally, I'm almost ready to do my GCSEs and I'm joining the school. Complete culture shock. And to some people, I got bullied a lot. But to me, I never accepted it as bullying because my mindset, it just never resonated as bullying. To me, I saw it as it's just another life experience that I had to go through. But in terms of what it is, there were bullying activities, taking the mick out of me, my accent, my skin tone, all of that kind of stuff. So it was really, really difficult. But like I said, I had a good upbringing. So naturally I was resilient anyway. And when I answered your question earlier as to have I always been confident, from that 14 to 28, I wasn't as confident because I went within myself a bit. I was in a completely new environment. Unless you were in my inner circle of trust, that was when you saw the real me. So that was difficult. But then when I hit 19, I upped and left and went to America. That was another kind of cultural difference and background from Nigeria to UK to America. But fundamentally, I'm always of the notion of I just need to learn. I need to understand people. Because if I understand people the best way that I possibly can, it's going to be a better experience. Even right down to the point where when I was working as a salesperson for Phones for You. Every time someone foreign came into the store and I sold them something, I used to get them to teach me how to say thank you in their language. And that's why I can say at least one word, usually hello or thank you, in about 15 different languages because I just wanted to learn. As human beings, it's my job. People think people should understand you, but why don't you understand them? Because if you understand them, it's actually easier than them understanding you. So for me, it was like, okay, new environment, new culture, right? How does things work? What's the rules of the game? How do people interact? What do people mean when they say this? What does that mannerism mean? What does that action mean? Then I took the same thing to America. I've taken the same thing in life. And then off the back of that, when I graduated school, I became better academically. I was more comfortable. I was more relaxed. Then I was able to take things in my stride. But yeah, you throw someone in a different dynamic and a different environment, it's never going to be easy. But nothing good comes from everything easy. That's where growth comes from. So if you can go through that period, then yeah, you ultimately come out of on the other side a better person, I think.
Sure. So what was the motivation to go to America? I know that you said that you were playing soccer, but for me, when I moved to Italy, it was about I want that challenge. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for the challenge of putting myself in a situation where I didn't know anybody and I was going to have to start again and I was going to have to just get on with it, suck it up and be brave, basically, and learn to be more confident with people I didn't know. I'm just curious to see if it was similar to you or whether it was all about the football.
No, it wasn't all about the football because if it's all about the football, I should have stayed in England. England has better football. No disrespect.
Yeah, true.
No disrespect to the Americans. England do. I just wanted to be different. I kid you not. It was literally that. Like, I had enough grades to go to university. I mean, I ended up graduating university in England because I got injured halfway through my scholarship, so I didn't complete that. But it was just because I wanted to be different. After sixth form, everyone was either going into work or going to university in England. And I was like, I don't do that. But I didn't want to take a gap year out to then try and figure things out. Like like I said earlier, my mom was like, you need to get a degree. What you do after that, I really don't care, but you got to make sure you get one. So I just wanted to be different. And then I thought, well, I like football. I'm starting to be better at football. I know I still need to get my degree, and I know I need to do something different. What's something different that ticks all of those three boxes? Go to America. So I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to America, and then I was able to experience a different culture over there. So it actually meant by the time I was 20 years old, I had lived, I had worked, and I had studied in 3 different continents. Now, that's super fortunate because it means I can interact with practically almost any type of person I come across. And yeah, that's why I did it. I just wanted to be different.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's funny, isn't it, how we spend so much of our time at school, like trying to fit in, and then we get to a point where actually we acknowledge the fact that we probably don't, and we just want to be ourselves, and whether that's being different or just kind of following our own path or something. In terms of your, the relationships that you create with people, the thing that was springing to my mind was that one of my values is connection. And it really feels like perhaps that's one of yours in terms of the way you just enjoy meeting people and having these kind of interactions with them. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'm a people person. I like learning about people. I mean, you notice our first interaction, I must have asked you hundreds of different questions because I
You asked me a question before I'd even opened my mouth.
I'm super curious. I like learning about people. I like understanding to the best of my abilities people, their story, their journey. And I think that's how life works because everything's about relationship. And that became so true when I started business. I knew zero. Like I was a 24-year-old who just started a company in a city that they've not really lived at. I graduated uni. I had no connections in business whatsoever. I had to just get out there and off I went. So being able to have this skill set to build relationships with people with good intention, not bad intentions, with good intentions. And if it turns out that they can help you out, so be it. If it turns out neither of you could help each other out, so be it. Because you still net, you walk away with better experience. You've learned something new about the person. You know what they like. You know what they dislike. You know a bit about their story, what they've come from, what they're doing, why they're doing it, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, being able to connect with people is an amazing skill set because it doesn't matter what you're trying to achieve. If you don't have the right people skills, it's going to be very difficult. That doesn't mean you have to be an extrovert. Some of the best people, relationship builders that I know and connectors are introverts because to some degree, they actually have more of a patience to listen further and ask deeper questions to get to know you better and then find a way to add value. So yeah, being able to relate with people and you can't be scared. You can't be scared. Like look at the way we connected. I was on Instagram, I saw your stuff, and I thought, cool, I'm going to reach out to you. I reached out to you. Luckily, you came back and said, okay. I mean, for you, you had to go outside of your comfort zone to some degree because the type of guests you typically have on ain't probably anything like me to some degree. But once we were able to connect, we had that connection and we had that conversation. It was a case of let's do this thing because who knows, it might add value to one or two people. And off we went. So in the modern era, now you can leverage technology. You're all the way in Italy. Now I have a very cool friend in Italy.
Yeah, I am very cool. Yeah.
And that's fundamentally it, whether it's someone in person, because with technology, we're losing that art of just being able to have a conversation with somebody without any agenda. Like, just be curious about people. You never know where it might lead you. So, yeah, I'd say we share that in common, being able to be people, and just without ulterior motive, look for the best in it for somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you had to describe yourself then, would you say you were introvert or extrovert?
Ooh.
Not that I particularly like these kind of labels, but if you got to swing one way or the other, what would
I'm an
it be?
extrovert. I am the classic extrovert.
Yeah.
In the sense of I'll happily talk to anybody. I'm confident enough to be able to do it. I don't mind the rejection. I can take it on the chin. It's not difficult. But there's a caveat. I am also a keep to myself. Don't bother me. I gotta recharge. I gotta do my own thing. I'm super comfortable both ways where I don't need to be a loudmouth and I don't need to be constantly talking. I know this forum is different because that's what this is. But the people that know me, I can be in a room filled with 20 people and not say a word unless I'm spoken to, unless I have something valuable. But I could also walk into a conference and a networking event and speak to 15 different strangers and turn 3 of them into my friends. So I'm a default extrovert, but it's important to be able to relate to all manner of people.
Yeah, 100% see that. How do you then take time to enjoy yourself? I also noticed, I don't know if this is related, that you said on your website that you spend 10 hours a week learning. So I'm guessing that you do a lot of that in your free time.
I do. And yeah, 10 hours a week. I spend roughly, on average, about an hour and a half a day learning.
Is that scheduled in that you must?
It's in my calendar, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I don't follow it all the time. There are times where I'd miss it, and then I'll do like 3 hours because I have a downtime or something just to learn and go into a rabbit hole. But it typically works out to be around 10 hours a week that I spend learning. And that's a combination of reading physical books, listening to Audible, listening to podcasts or watching podcasts, attending conferences, anything personal development is a combination of that. Because like I said, I'm a sponge. I just want to know, I want to learn, and I'm ultimately going to get better off the back of it.
Me too.
So how do I find time to relax and whatever? It's what's relaxing for me is different from what other people's definition of relaxing is. Let me give you an example. Most people want to go on holiday for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 10 days. My holiday is 3 days. 3 days. If I'm going on holiday, all I need is 3 days to recharge. Last year, I visited 7 different countries. I was in Turkey for 3 days. I was in Madeira for 4 days. That's relaxing for me. And I feel energized and I feel relaxed. And it takes time for you to understand yourself. And how I eventually got there is, like I said, I'm the classic workaholic. I work and work and work and work. But what I always noticed was when I then go on holiday, I'd go on holiday for like a week or two. The first 2 days were hell because I crashed. The middle 3 days or so were enjoyable. The last couple of days, I'm just like, can we get this over with and go? I've got something else to go do. That's how I figured out that, well, if I can manage to go on holiday for 3 days, maybe every 3 months, I'm going to have a better time than if I go on holiday for a week or 2 weeks every 6 months or every year or whatever it is. Now, I'm privileged to be in a position that I can do that, but holidays don't have to be these grand, expensive things that one does. It can just be, can you take a break to a different city and go explore for 48 hours or 3 days or whatever it is? Abroad, when you can, fantastic. But it's from auditing myself and paying close attention to how I'm feeling and what I'm doing that I was able to realize that. Another thing is I've come to the realization I've got 3 key levers of, okay, Stephen, you need to calm the hell down because you're doing too much. I didn't realize what it was until 2021, the most busiest period in my business history where the business literally took off. Office in London, office in Manchester, office in Newcastle. We grew phenomenally. Like I was up and down the country, up and down the motorway, meetings here, meetings there, growing the team in Manchester, making sure they're okay. I was flat out. I realized level 1, my left eye started twitching. I didn't know what it was. I just always, now and again, when things get super busy, hindsight's a beautiful thing, right? When you're going for it, it's like, why is my eyes twitching? What's going on? I didn't realize. But my eyes would start twitching. If I was able to then do what I'm doing and calm down, it'd go away miraculously. No medication, no nothing. It just go away. So then I realized that's level 1. I'm starting to do a bit too much. My eyes twitching a bit. Level 2, I start having migraine right in the middle of my head. It's like a burning sensation. That's happened when I'm in the heat of things. Like I didn't listen to my body. It went from the eye twitching, then it went to the middle of my head, like migraine. 2021, I realized there was a third kind of level. I'm 31 years old. I have never in my life had a nosebleed that's not been from contact. I played football, so if I get headbutted or whatever, my nose will bleed, obviously. But self-inflicted nosebleed, never a thing. I had my first ever non-impact nosebleed, it was then that I realized, holy crap, I've been doing way too much, because I still had the other two businesses that was going on the side, which I kind of had to find a way to set aside. But the agency was ramped. It was growth. And when you're a natural workaholic, I was thriving off it. I was like, yeah, we just need to keep going, building momentum. I didn't want to take any downtime. And then it went from eye twitching to the migraine, then the nosebleed. That scared the living daylight out of me. Like literally, no one hit me, nothing. I came out of the shower and I was like, what's going on? Oh, crap, blood. Then I realized that was what it was. I spoke to the GP and he was like, yeah, sometimes when you're in an extremely stressful situation, it can happen and so on. So that's how I've been able to realize that, okay, cool. I twitch. Depending on what I'm doing, I can ignore it to some degree. And then as soon as I get the migraine, I need to make sure, okay, I take some time out. Then I realize the holiday as well, I actually don't need long periods away. So if I can fit in 3 days here and there, then I never need to get to that level. And that's how ultimately I found my balance.
Yeah, it's fabulous that you actually have that kind of level of self-awareness, I think, because so many people are guilty of just, experiencing problems and brushing them off, and a few more problems and then brushing them off. So the fact that you are really aware of that and you've identified that there are these 3 levels, I think is amazing. Same thing with the holiday, because, society would have us think that a holiday should be 7 days or 10 days or 2 weeks. But, when you said 3 days, I was like, what? That's not a holiday? But I get it, because, one of the things I'm exploring more on social media and also here in the podcast is this idea that mischief, if you like, can be done in small amounts. And that is so valuable across many, many different things. It's this idea that change happens when we take small steps. We don't have to take massive steps. Sometimes it's the small ones that you can barely see that are actually taking you slowly towards your objective. And I feel like when you talk about holidays, it's a similar kind of thing. We burn ourselves out waiting for those 2 weeks in August, only to feel stressed about going, bored in the middle, can't wait to get back by the end. Probably got sunburnt in the middle as well. And, well, perhaps not you, just me. But, instead, I love this idea that you're going, well, I only need 3 days, so I'll just do 3 days, but I'll do them frequently. It just kind of feels like perhaps that's a great solution for the world we live in right now, in terms of small changes, small bursts, bite-sized things. Everything becomes a little bit more doable.
Absolutely. Some people that I listen to who are doing some cool stuff, we see life as this ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs. It makes for great marketing. It makes for great conversation. It makes for, oh, they're at the top. They're doing something great. Oh, no, Debbie Downer, feel sorry for them. They're at the bottom. Da, 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 da. What you actually want in life is almost very little movement. And it's just nice and calm. You're flowing along. You're steady. You're in good health. You're in good shape. And your life is super, super calm and super relaxing. It's boring. You don't sell that. You can't sell that because it's not exciting. It's not dynamic enough. But to your point, it's a way of making mischief. It's a way of being different. It's a way of being a rebel because you're going against the norm. But that norm fundamentally makes your life better. And when you make those tiny, tiny changes over time, it compounds into a lot. You listen to the people in finance. It's a case of you pull a little bit away, you put it into an index fund and it grows and grows and grows. The power of compounding takes over. And you look back and you go, huh? How did I have all this pool of money? It's those small changes. But yeah, it takes being self-aware to know what's the right solution for you. I don't think a lot of people talk about that enough. They just talk about here's a solution and you got to take that as gospel. To somebody listening, 3 days is probably the worst thing for them. Like they need a hell of a lot longer. And to somebody else, they're like, oh, that's interesting. What's the solution for you? And it's all about understanding that.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever felt stuck
in your life, or sort of, like you just didn't know which way to go? Because the way you talk, it's almost like I grew up, I went into business, and you also said that you've been on a bit of a journey in sort of self-development. So have you been through a period like that where you kind of felt stuck or lost?
I'm 31 years old, and for the last 31 years, I've been in that period because that's what life is.
Okay, that's long.
that is what life is. Life is not something that, I've got to figure out. I call it flexibility within framework. In anything I do, I have a rough outline. I want to go from A to B. How I get there, I don't know. That could be a straight line. That could be ups and downs. That could be zigzag. That could be up, down, in a circle, go backwards a few times, then spin up, and then keep going. As long as I get to B, I'm cool with it. And that's the framework. I know A to B, but the flexibility is what's in the middle. We don't like change as humans, but the only constant thing is change. So being able to adapt to that kind of dynamic environment while still going towards your goal, that's fundamentally where you become successful. It might come across like I've got it all figured out. I don't. I really, really don't. When I got injured, because when I went to America, my plan was to stay in America for 4 years and then live in America forever. I didn't know I was going to get injured halfway through my scholarship and I was going to lose the scholarship because I couldn't play. I came back to England. I graduated because my mom made it compulsory for me to graduate. I graduated, and then here I am. I knew I wanted to be successful. I don't know what the definition of successful looked like before. It's only recently that I've been able to put together a list of what do I define as successful, so that when I start comparing myself to somebody else, I can look at my list and go, this is your success, not the other person's success. So it sounds like I've got it all sorted. I don't. I'm still learning every single day. I'm still doing the audits. I have a calendar, a 2-hour period in my calendar every 3 months called self-reflection and like self-love top-up every 3 months. Because what happens is you do something in work and then you stop doing it. So because it's in the calendar, I'm able to, like we said, if I need to adjust a little bit, I can adjust. I can make that sort of changes before it gets to a stage where I all of a sudden crash and then I've got to do this huge amount of work to get it back to where I need to. So it's just having some sort of framework. You have a rough idea of what you want. And then as you're going on the journey, you figure out the middle till you eventually get to where you're going. That's all it is.
Make it sound so simple. I feel like you should be writing a book. Are you writing a book? You should.
Not currently. Not currently. I don't think I'm at the stage of book here, but no, I appreciate that. Maybe sometime in the future, who knows?
So what have you got lined up in your future then? Have you thought about where you want to be?
How far into the future are we talking?
Well, it's up to you. How far do you want to go?
I mean, I've got an idea of every decade till I die, I think. My plan is, God willing, I'm alive till I'm 100 years old. So yeah, I'd like to live to 100. Some people don't want to, some people want to. I'm like, if I can live to 100, that's cool as hell. So yeah, I want to do that. In the next future, if we're looking at maybe 5 years, I want to be in a position where if a good offer comes for the agency, I look at potentially exiting the agency, which will give me more resource to go do some more pretty amazing stuff. I'll always be in business in some capacity because once I realize that that's who I am, it's very difficult to go back in whatever capacity that is. I like to impact people, like I said, with my story. So take up public speaking a lot more prominently, potentially. You talked about books. It's funny because I do have a few book ideas written, but timing is everything for me in terms of book titles and ideas of where a book could go. But I don't think I'm at that stage yet. I think maybe another 10 plus years potentially. One of my big dream is to buy a football club. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a professional football club. It could be an amateur football club or a semi-professional football club. Because one of the things I saw in the football game as I was growing up was there aren't as much opportunities for a certain type of personality or person or skill set. And if I owned a football club, I could put that right. Mentorship is a big thing. Or for me, why should anyone listen to me if I've not achieved something worthy? So that's why that I'm probably looking at that deeply, maybe towards the time I'm around 50 or something.
That's interesting. Do you not think that what you've done makes you worthy up until now then?
Yes and no. I'm still at the journey. I'm still on my journey. Who knows? I'm still going to make a lot of mistakes and so on. But there's levels to everything. To someone starting out, yes, I'm not naive. Like, I'm 6 years in the business. I've gone through some pretty rough patches and some pretty great patches. I'm sure I can add value to them. But fundamentally, the full picture, the full breadth of the type of people I want to be able to add value to, I'm still on my journey. And when I get further on, there'll be a new group of people that I can add better value to potentially. So all of those in the card. There's a story, like, I don't tell this a lot. My mom lost the house in 2008 during the financial crisis. God. And one of the things I want to do is to be able to say, here's keys to your brand new home. Maybe when I eventually sell the agency, that might be that timeline. So there's a lot of things, and there's a lot of different milestones along the ways of things that I want to do. And I want to start a foundation at some point to be able to do so many cool things and work with other charitable organizations that are doing serious stuff, not like where the money is going to administration. I appreciate the importance of it, but make a good impact. There's so many things on the timeline and on the horizon. So for me, it's a case of, right, what's next? What's in sight? I think what's in sight is grow the agency to a certain stage, exit from the agency, take the proceeds to achieve some of those stuff that I've mentioned, roll the rest into maybe the AI company to blow that up even bigger, or take on the investing side of what I'm starting to look at to a bigger level where I can actually have a bigger impact into other small businesses and entrepreneurs. There's so many things on the horizon, but fundamentally, watch my 7 levers at any given time, either in a good state. Because if they are, I mean, you think about it from the love side of things, I'm going to have a family at some point. Are they okay? Can I provide for them comfortably? Am I there when they need me? I'm not the one that needs to be there loads and loads of hours, but am I there when they need me? Am I adding good impact to their life? So all of those things are stuff that I considered and I am considering, but it's all about timing. And when the timing is right, then I can start checking them off along the way.
I love that. When you mentioned a foundation, have you got something particular in mind, or somebody that you'd like to help?
I want to help the 14 to 28-year-old me. That's not from an age standpoint. That's from a mindset standpoint, an outlook standpoint, everything else. Age is irrelevant, because at that time I wasn't comfortable in my skin. I didn't know a lot of what I didn't know. I had rough ideas, zero guidance. I had to find the pieces online, speak to people, pull the pieces from here, join it with here, then put together my own philosophy and framework, and then grow. I want to make a huge impact to where I was, the mindset, the state, the things that I was doing within that 14 to 28, where I was almost lost to some degree. Like I said, framework. I had a rough idea, or I didn't really have the nitty gritty, the strategy, the full guidance, and that those are the type of people that want to be able to impact a lot more, because those type of people can go on to do special things and impact a lot more people, if you know what I mean. So that would be my focus. And as part of the foundation, my mom is big on orphanage. So there'll be a subsection of that when that eventually becomes a thing, where there's a focus on homeless, orphanage, people who've lost their parents, whether from a early age and things of that nature. I'd like to be able to help her achieve her legacy, because without what she's done for me to get me to where I'm hopefully going to end up at, the sacrifices she's made for me, it wouldn't have been possible. So if I can give back in that manner, where she's able to then be proud of all of that stuff and make a much deeper impact by impacting me in a great way, then so be it. But how far away I am from that, I don't know. I could be 15 years, could be 20 years. It could be sooner, depending on the valuation of the agency. Who knows? But I know it's on the cards and I'm going to work towards it.
Your mum must be so proud of you.
I hope so.
I hope she listens. I hope she hears that, I hope she hears what you said.
Yeah.
Stephen, it's been an absolute pleasure. What have you got lined up in the next month or so?
In the next, I'm taking a trip to Nigeria, but to completely contradict everything I said, it's a business trip, it's a wedding planning trip, it's a bit of holiday in there, it's an everything trip. So I need a lot more than 3 days, but there's going to be a good 3 days where I'm not checking my phone, I'm not doing any work, I'm just relaxing on holiday. And yeah, it's a trip I'm looking forward to. I might actually fly on Friday. And then coming back from that, we've got a few projects that we're working on, which are some very decent sized projects from the marketing agency. I'm looking forward to releasing some of those. I can't say too much about that.
There's me thinking I'm going to get an exclusive again, and you just tease me.
The exclusive I'll give you is within the month. The plan is to have the MVP, minimum viable product, for the AI startup, because we're building an app, and that's going to be cool. So I don't know if you heard some of the Teams message that popped up earlier with the notification. One of the milestones has just been achieved. So we're looking to hopefully complete that MVP so we can start rolling that out to people within the next month. So
amazing.
There's a lot of stuff going on in addition to wedding planning. I'm getting married in November. So yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's gonna be an exciting month.
Awesome. It sounds like it's going to be an exciting year, to be quite honest with you. So
I have a sneaky feeling 2023 is the year I thought 2020 would be. If that makes sense. Because 2020 was all the year of perfection, 2020 vision, we're going to crush it and all of this stuff, we're going to do which it didn't happen after March. But I somewhat feel like 2023 might then eventually be that kind of a year where you're able to build good momentum amongst the difficult climate, amongst everything. You're just going to keep pushing forward. So time will tell. We will see, but I'm definitely going to try my best.
Amazing. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I've really enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure, and thanks for having me, Zoe.
I hope you loved today's episode and it made you think differently, or perhaps nudged you into changing something in your life that's not working for you. I'd love to give you a shout out right here on the podcast too. So let me know what you think, what you'd like to hear more of, or how you've been inspired by what you've heard. Let's keep in touch over on Instagram at Mischief and Hive, or sign up to my newsletter at zoegreenhalf.com. If you're enjoying being part of the Mischief Movement, please consider telling a friend or leaving me a review wherever you download your episodes, which will seriously help my mission to inspire and empower more people like us to choose mischief over mediocre. Ciao!